You cried when no one was looking, in a bathroom, in a parked car, in a room that swallowed your silence like it didn't even care. You wiped your face quickly, afraid someone would notice. But someone did. Not a person, not a friend. Heaven noticed. God noticed. The moment that tear slipped past your defenses, it triggered something eternal. Chosen one, that wasn't just a breakdown, that was a breaking open. The universe paused, the angels leaned in, because your tears are not random. They are reports, sacred data. Heaven doesn't just track them, it collects them. The Bible says in Psalm 56 verse 8, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle." That's not a metaphor, that's a spiritual operation. Every tear you've ever shed has been recorded, not in shame, but in honor. Do you understand what that means? Your pain didn't disappear. It crystallized. It became a spiritual artifact, a signature of what you survived. Every time you wept in silence, the enemy expected you to collapse. But instead, something holy came out of you. And heaven said, "Mark this moment. This one is different." They thought your tears made you weak, but your tears revealed your power. Because unlike most, you didn't numb out. You didn't shut down. You didn't hide behind hardness or performance. You felt. And when a chosen one feels deeply, something begins to move in the unseen. Realms open, frequencies shift, codes unlock. Because your sorrow isn't just emotional, it's prophetic. It carries revelation, it carries access, and most of all, it carries truth. The kind of truth that can't be faked, the kind that angels recognize and demons fear. That's why you've been watched more in your brokenness than your strength. You think no one saw what you went through. The sleepless nights, the shaking hands, the moments where your soul trembled under the weight of invisible wars. But there was a witness. God didn't just see your pain, He archived it, not to shame you, but to use it. Every tear you've ever cried is being repurposed into keys, into weapons, into crystal frequencies that disrupt darkness. You're not crying because you're defeated. You're crying because something sacred inside of you is alive, and it refuses to stay quiet. Chosen one, your tears didn't just fall. They were escorted. Angels were dispatched the moment sorrow broke your surface. They caught what earth could not. And what they caught, they didn't just store. They delivered to thrones, to archives, to heavenly places where your name is written not just in ink, but in crystal. And that tear, the one that fell when no one texted back, when the door closed, when you thought God forgot you, that was the tear they didn't see coming. But it's the one heaven's been waiting for, the one that began the shift. You have no idea how dangerous your cry is. Not your scream, not your shout, your cry. That trembling breath, that sharp inhale before the tears fall, that moment when your chest tightens and you can't speak. That's when heaven hears you clearest, and that's when hell panics, because your tears aren't just water, they're warfare. Each one carries a vibration that pierces through the veil. Your cry shakes what sermons can't, what prayers couldn't access, your brokenness breached, and the enemy knows it. That's why he tried to silence you. Not your voice, your vulnerability. Chosen one, it wasn't random the way your moments of sorrow were met with shame. Why people told you to toughen up or get over it. That wasn't just bad advice, it was strategic interference. The enemy hoped if he could make you ashamed of your tears, you'd stop releasing your most powerful weapon. But what he didn't account for is your resilience. You cried anyway, you felt anyway, you broke and still believed. And in the spirit realm, that's more dangerous than anything else, because a chosen one who still cries is a chosen one who still believes. And belief breaks chains. Let me tell you something few ever realize. When your spirit cries, it registers like thunder in the spirit world. Angels hear it as a signal. Demons hear it as a warning. It announces that your soul is still alive, still sensitive, still in tune with heaven's frequency. The devil doesn't fear your strength. He fears your softness, because it means you're still responsive to God, still breakable in His hands, still moldable. That's why your emotional moments have always been under attack. That's why every time you got close to healing, something or someone pulled you back into numbness. He was trying to shut off your signal, but chosen one, your cry still works. Even now, after all you've been through, your spirit still knows how to weep in worship, how to groan in intercession, how to break open before God and let the oil flow. That's the sound hell hates, not your volume, but your surrender. The enemy fears what happens when you get honest, because that's when heaven rushes in. That's when angels move. That's when timelines bend. That's when what was delayed gets released, all from a cry, all from the moment the world told you to hide, but heaven told you to release. So cry if you need to, not as a victim, but as a vessel. Cry like Hannah did at the altar when her cry birthed a prophet. Cry like Jesus did at Lazarus' tomb before resurrection came. Cry like the heavens open every time your soul can't hold it in anymore. Because your cry isn't weakness. It's soundproof evidence that your spirit is still awake, and for the chosen one, there is nothing more terrifying to the enemy than that. Your cry is a command. It tells heaven you're ready. It tells darkness you're still dangerous. You left behind more than memories. You left markers, not in ink, not in stone, but in spirit. Invisible to the naked eye, but undeniable to the realm that sees what man cannot. Chosen one, your tears didn't evaporate. They crystallized. They lingered in the atmosphere like spiritual fingerprints, proof that your soul touched that moment, that place, that person. You walked into rooms where no one knew the depth of your pain, but the spirit realm did, and even after you left, your residue remained. Emotional gravity, prophetic trace, the kind of proof that can't be deleted, only discerned. Have you ever wondered why people remember you without explanation? Why they say, there's just something about you? It's not your tone. It's not your appearance. It's your imprint. Because when a chosen one weeps, something eternal enters the environment. Your tears carry memory codes, divine memory that heaven honors and hell recognizes. That's why certain atmospheres change when you show up. That's why some people either open up or shut down around you instantly. It's not their perception, it's the pressure. Your spirit carries evidence of survival, and that evidence speaks, even in silence. Psalm 126 verse 5 says, "Those who sow in tears will reap in joy." But here's the part most people miss. The tears are seeds, but they're also signals. Where you wept, you planted more than pain. You planted legacy. That relationship that broke you, you left behind crystal. That hospital hallway where you collapsed in prayer, there's still a residue of your cry embedded in its walls. That bed where you wept into your pillow thinking no one could hear. Heaven marked it. That wasn't just suffering, it was sacred. It was your soul leaving a trail for your future self to follow. You see, chosen one, what they thought was your breakdown was actually your blueprint. The enemy wanted you to believe that pain was wasted, but heaven has built entire realms on your tears. Your sorrow isn't just remembered, it's honored. It's turned into crystal frequencies that echo with authority in places you didn't even know you touched. That's why certain blessings seem to find you now without you chasing them. They're drawn to the coordinates your tears left behind. Divine GPS. The weeping version of you planted something the healed version is about to harvest. There are places in this world that still carry your cry. People who feel something stir in their chest when they think of you. Not because of nostalgia, but because your energy marked them. And there are moments still coming where God will guide you back to the exact locations where you once wept, but this time you'll return different, not broken, but blessed, not empty, but overflowing. You'll stand in the same space that held your pain and realize this wasn't just trauma, this was transformation. And the crystals that formed from your tears, they're still shining, still testifying, still proving you are here. There are angels assigned to your tears, not to stop them, not to prevent them, but to collect them, to guard them, to carry them straight into the throne room of God. Every tear you've cried wasn't wasted, it was witnessed. And not just in passing, it was caught in vessels you couldn't see, held by hands that didn't shake, preserved with a reverence no human could offer. You were never alone in those moments. Heaven was closer than your breath, watching, waiting, weeping with you. And as the tears fell, the angels moved. Psalm 56, verse 8. Isn't poetry, it's protocol. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. That word bottle in the Hebrew speaks of a container, but also of an assignment. Angels aren't just comforters, they're collectors, assigned to your life with specific instructions. Do not let one drop hit the ground. Think about that. The creator of the universe gave angels orders about your sorrow. That's how important your cry is in the kingdom. That's how weighty your weeping is in the unseen world. Not a single tear missed, not one moment dismissed. And those jars, they're not symbolic, they're sacred. Each one holds a moment of your history, a moment you thought heaven ignored. That night you cried because the betrayal cut too deep. That morning your body ached from holding it all in. That season where the tears came so fast you stopped wiping them away. All of it, collected, labeled, delivered. Angels didn't just carry your sorrow, they transported your testimony. Because in God's economy, tears are currency. They purchase clarity, they purchase breakthrough. And what you wept over in private is now positioned for public redemption. But here's what most don't understand. Those same angels don't just collect, they return. They come back bearing responses, breakthroughs, divine reversal. That's why your life shifts after intense seasons of weeping. That's why favor finds you in ways that don't make sense, because the jars were delivered, the report was read, the pain was seen, and heaven answered. There are miracles chasing you right now that were set in motion by tears you forgot you cried. But God didn't forget. He assigned angels to hold it until the fullness of time. So the next time you feel that ache, that rise in your chest before the tears fall, don't fight it. Let it flow. Let it be what it was always meant to be, a release, a revelation, a return to heaven's hands. And know this, chosen one, the angels are still on assignment, still catching what your soul can't hold, still carrying what your heart can't speak. You've never cried alone. You've never been unseen. And soon, the very jars that held your sorrow will overflow with the oil of joy. That's not a dream. That's the delivery. It's coming. Your tears weren't just expressions of pain, they were activations. Divine codes embedded in liquid form, sent out like frequencies into the atmosphere. Chosen one, you've released more into the spirit realm through your weeping than through your words. Every time your heart broke open and the tears spilled, heaven didn't just observe, it responded. Because your tears are not ordinary. They're encrypted. They carry data, assignments, and access. And when they fall, they hit specific spiritual coordinates, places you don't even know you've been unlocking. God doesn't waste emotion. He codes it. What you thought was just grief was actually guidance. What you thought was just sorrow was actually strategy. While you were falling apart, you were also opening doors in the unseen, doors that logic couldn't open, doors that shouting couldn't budge, doors that only brokenness could touch. Revelation flows from surrender, and your tears are the highest form of surrender heaven recognizes. It's why, after your most painful moments, suddenly you see things, you feel deeper, you know what others miss, because something was activated when you let it fall. 1 Corinthians 2:10 says, "These are the things God has revealed to us by His Spirit." The Spirit searches all things, even the deep things of God. Do you know what triggers access to those deep things? A heart that's been broken open, a soul that doesn't perform, but pours. That's you. Your pain made you porous, and that porosity made you prophetic. You don't hear God the way others do because you didn't arrive the way others did. You bled your way into this sensitivity. Your discernment isn't studied, it's paid for, in tears. Chosen one, your spirit has been unlocking scrolls while your flesh cried itself to sleep. While your body collapsed, your spirit climbed. That's why you wake up from certain breakdowns with strange clarity. That's why you know things no one told you. You were granted revelation not through striving, but through suffering. Heaven rewards the brokenhearted with sight, and you've been seeing beyond your season because your sorrow was never silent. It spoke in a frequency only God and angels understand, a cry that said, "I still trust you, even now." That level of surrender opens realms. So the next time the tears come, don't suppress them. Don't apologize for them. They are sacred. They are assignments. They are technology. Your tears are encoded keys, and some doors are about to unlock because of what you released in previous seasons. There are answers heading toward you, not because you prayed the loudest, but because you cried the realest. And those tears didn't vanish. They detonated. Heaven heard. Heaven moved. And now, chosen one, it's your turn to receive what was always hidden until your weeping made the revelation possible. You thought it was just another breakdown, another private moment behind closed doors. But in the spirit, it wasn't small. It was seismic. Chosen one, there was a day, maybe you've forgotten it, maybe you blocked it out, but your soul remembers. That cry shifted the sky. Heaven bent toward earth when you couldn't hold it in anymore. And while your body trembled and your tears soaked through your shirt, the clouds above you responded. Something in the atmosphere broke open because of what you released. And nothing has been the same since. You weren't just crying, you were aligning. That moment when the sobs came uncontrollably, when your voice cracked mid-prayer, when you could only whisper, "God, please." That was the moment all of heaven leaned in, because there's a cry that moves angels, a cry that pulls the wind, a cry that signals the turning of the tide. That was your cry. And while people around you kept scrolling, heaven stood still. That tear wasn't weakness, it was weight. A spiritual command that shifted the temperature over your entire life. You didn't even know it. But creation responded. Romans 8:22 says, "All creation has been groaning." Your cry didn't just echo in your room. It harmonized with the groans of creation. That's why it triggered a change in the atmosphere. Do you remember what happened after that moment? How things began to unravel or align? How the people who weren't for you suddenly left? How doors started to close without warning? That wasn't coincidence. That was the aftershock of your spirit breaking through. You cried, and the weather in your life changed. Heaven restructured timelines based on what came out of your brokenness. Chosen one, when a weeping soul touches the heart of God, it creates movement. That's why the enemy tried to convince you to numb it, tried to get you to distract yourself, tried to make you feel silly for crying over nothing. But it wasn't nothing, it was everything. Your cry carried centuries of weight, ancestral grief, generational trauma, buried wounds. And when you let it out, the curse began to crack. That was the day heaven marked. That was the day your lineage shifted. And it happened in the middle of a cry you thought was pointless. If only you could see what happened in the spirit when your voice cracked that night. If only you knew how many angels were dispatched, how many dark assignments were canceled, how many gates swung open because of the sound you made when you couldn't even speak full sentences. That moment wasn't just emotional, it was prophetic. That was the day heaven said, enough. That was the day chains fell. That was the day your storm turned into soil. And the sky still remembers. The atmosphere is still responding. Because your cry didn't just echo, it commanded. Pain doesn't leave you the way it found you. It presses, it crushes, but it also creates. And for you, chosen one, what it created was not just strength, it was crystal. Your tears didn't disappear, they transformed. What came out of you in agony hardened into something beautiful, sharp, and eternal. The pain that once made you feel small has now become evidence, not scars, crystals, and they carry your story without needing words. You survived, and the proof is shimmering in places no one can touch. You see, in the spirit realm, tears aren't absorbed by the ground. They're refined by glory. They go through process, pressure, purification. The same way diamonds are born underground, your tears became something more after they fell. They solidified. They became reminders to heaven that you didn't just endure, you transformed. And here's the mystery most never see. Those crystals, those remnants of your weeping, are being used. Heaven has embedded them into your path, into your voice, into your frequency. They're not behind you, they're in you now. Isaiah 61:3 says, God gives us beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning. But what if beauty is more literal than we think? What if your mourning produced something heaven now displays? The enemy tried to convince you that pain was wasted, that all it did was break you. But God was gathering raw materials, refining, shaping, turning moments of collapse into structures of authority. And now, you walk differently, you carry weight, you glisten spiritually, because the crystals formed from your pain are still reflecting light. Light that didn't come from you, but now shines through you. There's a reason you've become harder to ignore, a reason why certain people are magnetized by you or deeply uncomfortable in your presence. It's not about your words, it's not about your posture, it's about your resonance. Pain shifted your frequency, and the crystals born from your tears carry that shift into every room. That's why strangers open up to you. That's why old cycles can't stick. That's why spiritual resistance intensifies near you. You're no longer raw, you're refined. Your sorrow didn't shatter you. It sculpted you into something with edge, clarity, and purpose. Chosen one, your pain was never meant to leave you hollow. It was meant to leave you shining. You've wept long enough to birth something heaven now uses. Don't hide your glow. Don't downplay your story. Those crystallized moments, they're your weapons. They're your witness. And they're your warning to the darkness that tried to kill you. You lost. The tears turned to tools. The weeping turned to worship. The pain turned to prophecy. You carry the evidence now, and the ones who tried to destroy you, they'll have to watch you shine. You feel too much, don't you? You walk into a room and absorb what no one says out loud. The tension, the sadness, the unspoken chaos. It hits you like a wave, invisible but heavy. People call you too sensitive, too emotional, too much. But heaven calls you something else, a sensor, a spiritual early warning system. And chosen one, when a sensor like you begins to cry, the atmosphere doesn't just shift, it shakes. It rattles the cages of kingdoms that were built on control, secrets, and shadows. Your tears are not private events. They are spiritual earthquakes. Empaths are not weak. They are wired to feel what others numb. That's why you've always been overwhelmed by things others ignored. Your tears confuse people, but in the spirit realm, they're decoded immediately. Because you don't just feel, you discern. You detect spiritual corruption before it manifests in the natural. You sense decay under the disguise of charm. And when that sensing builds up too long, it escapes through your tears. But those tears, they're not passive, they're purifying. You've been cleansing atmospheres just by surviving them. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." But how can you guard a heart designed to be wide open to the pain of the world? That's why it hurts so deeply, chosen one. That's why the betrayals slice through your spirit. That's why the world exhausts you, because you are not numb. You were never meant to be. You are a vessel of spiritual intelligence. And when you cry, heaven records the data. But hell trembles, because your tears don't just feel, they expose. Think about it. Why do you think you've been attacked in your emotional life more than anything else? Why do you think you've been gaslit, ignored, invalidated, or made to feel dramatic? Because if the enemy can get you to suppress your tears, he can silence your discernment. If he can make you ashamed of feeling, he can block your prophetic frequency. But it's too late now. You're awake. You know that every tear was evidence that you saw too much, sensed too much, loved too much. And that is power in its purest form. Chosen one, when you cry, it's not just grief, it's government. Your tears issue judgments against systems that have tried to suppress your spirit. They send signals into realms where empire walls begin to crack. You're not crying because you're fragile, you're crying because you're tuned in, and your tuning is disrupting systems. In your family, in your bloodline, in spiritual structures that thought you wouldn't last. But here you are, and your tears, they are loud in the unseen. Every drop announces, this one sees, this one feels, this one cannot be fooled. And that's why empires tremble. You thought you just cried in random places, but nothing about your tears has ever been random. Not where they fell, not when they came, not how they lingered in silence long after you wiped them away. Chosen one, every tear you've ever cried left a marker, a spiritual signal, coded into the very fabric of that location. You wept on the floor, but heaven recorded the GPS. You broke down in the car, but angels mapped the coordinates. Your sorrow became a spiritual tracking system. And now, heaven is circling back to the places you cried with answers. This is what they never told you. Tears are locational prayers. They embed intention into the earth. They inform the heavens that something holy happened there, something too deep for words, too powerful for ritual. Your tears became altars, invisible monuments, and now, years later, you're being called back to those places, not to mourn, but to receive, because where you cried, God made a note. And that note is now manifesting as divine visitation. Where you broke, he is now building. Where you wept, he is now pouring out. Genesis 28:16 says, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." That's how it was for you. You didn't know the room you collapsed in would become a gateway. You didn't know the place of your private ache would be remembered by eternity. But now it's clear. Your tears were GPS coordinates for breakthrough. They told heaven where to revisit, where to send healing, where to mark you as a survivor. Your emotional pain carried the kind of clarity no map could provide. And the angels assigned to your life, they never lost track of those sights. That's why certain places trigger something in you. That school hallway, that stretch of highway, that one corner of your room, they carry echoes, because when you wept there, something opened. And though you left, your cry remained. Your pain planted a signal into the soil. And now you're starting to notice blessings are circling the same paths where grief once overtook you. The patterns are not coincidences, they're fulfillment cycles. The same way you return to old pain, God is now returning to fulfill old promises, because your tears marked where He would show up. Chosen one, do not be surprised when you find yourself standing in the same location where your tears once fell. But this time, you're different. You're whole, you're radiant, you're ready, because what was once the site of heartbreak is now the site of inheritance. The place where you wept without answers will become the place where the answers find you. And those tears, they weren't forgotten. They were stored, coded, sealed with your name. You cried in pain, but now you will return in power. The coordinates are active, and the heavens are on their way. Your tears were never just tears. They were treasures, and anything valuable becomes a target. Chosen one, there was a war happening while you wept, not just over your joy, not just over your mind, but over your jars. The vessels assigned to hold your sorrow, the containers heaven designated for your testimony. Satan didn't just attack your peace. He tried to intercept what your tears were producing. He knew that if your jars reached their destination, breakthrough would follow. So he moved quickly. He tried to contaminate, confuse, and cancel what was sacred. Why do you think your tears have often been interrupted? Why do you think the moment your heart began to break open, something would suddenly distract you? A phone call, a memory, a sharp wave of numbness that shut it all down. That wasn't random, that was warfare. The enemy knows what happens when your weeping completes its cycle, when your soul fully releases, when the angels can finish the collection. So he sends interruption, he sends mockery, he sends shame, not to hurt your feelings, but to hijack your jars before they arrive. Lamentations 2:11 says, "My eyes fail from weeping, I am in torment within." That kind of depth isn't emotional, it's spiritual, and it creates a ripple. Every deep cry you've released has stirred the air. That's why you felt so exhausted afterward. That's why the enemy sent accusations like arrows. You're too emotional. You're weak. You're unstable. No, chosen one. You were birthing, and the enemy tried to steal the baby before it could breathe. He wanted to rob you of your release so you'd stay stuck in cycles, so the jars would remain empty. But he failed. The jars were guarded. Heaven never left them unprotected. The enemy tried to tamper with your story, to rewrite your weeping into something shameful. But God preserved the truth, and even the tears you forgot about, the ones you cried as a child, as a teenager, in the middle of that betrayal, in the silence of your room, they were caught. Not one drop lost. And now those jars are full, heavy, sacred, ready, and Satan can't touch them anymore. His time is up. The grief he tried to weaponize against you is about to testify against him. Chosen one, you need to know this. Your sorrow was never wasted, even when it felt like no one cared, even when your tears dried on your skin with no comfort in sight. They were being gathered, fought for, sealed. And now, the very vessels the enemy tried to steal are becoming delivery systems. They're being poured out as oil, healing others, unlocking timelines, flooding your life with restoration. What was once grief is now glory. What was once hidden is now holy. And the one who tried to rob you, he'll have to watch you overflow. You were being watched, not just when you were strong, but especially when you were weak, especially when you wept, especially when the tears fell silently and your voice couldn't find words. Chosen one, your grief has always drawn attention in the spirit realm. The enemy studies pain, he monitors sorrow, and your tears, they were never ignored. They were tracked, not to help you, but to halt you, because what breaks you also builds you, and darkness has always feared what would rise after your cry. There's a reason your saddest moments were so surrounded. You thought you were alone in that room, sobbing into your pillow, but something was watching. Not God, he was comforting. But other eyes, lesser eyes, were analyzing, not to love you, but to study the shape of your despair. The enemy has surveillance systems, emotional sensors, demonic watchers, spiritual parasites that feed on the grief of the anointed. That's why the atmosphere always felt heavier when you were hurting, because your pain lit up the radar, because your tears weren't ordinary, they were prophetic, and prophetic grief always draws opposition. Job 7:17-18 says, "What is mankind that you make so much of them, that you examine them every morning and test them every moment? Even heaven watches closely, but not to trap you, to track you, to protect the evolution of your becoming." The enemy tried to do the same, but for different reasons. He wanted to interrupt the upload. You were releasing something during those breakdowns: information, intercession, activation. And hell couldn't stop you from crying, so it tried to record you, to predict you, to copy you before you fully bloomed. But nothing forged in tears can be replicated by surveillance. Chosen one, you've been followed in the spirit, not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous. There are dark forces who don't understand your blueprint, so they observe your patterns. They try to use your sadness to guess what you'd do next. But your grief didn't break you into predictability. It broke you into prophecy. And prophecy can't be tracked like patterns. That's why the surveillance failed. That's why they still don't understand how you're rising. Because something holy formed in your collapse that their devices can't decode. So yes, you were watched. Your grief was monitored. But what they couldn't see was what heaven hid inside your sorrow. Divine fire, resurrection codes, crystal intelligence. Now the watchers are confused, because the one they expected to fall apart completely is glowing with power they didn't detect in time. Your tears uploaded something they couldn't intercept, and now heaven has what hell never could: the archive of your endurance. Chosen one, the surveillance is still there, but it's watching too late, because what they feared is already happening. You've been rebuilt, and now you're untouchable. They saw your tears, but they didn't understand them. Maybe they looked away. Maybe they told you to be strong. Maybe they changed the subject or laughed too loudly to cover the silence. But chosen one, your tears weren't meant for them to comprehend. They were sacred, and sacred things confuse carnal minds. When your family saw you cry, they weren't seeing weakness. They were witnessing transformation, a metamorphosis that their language couldn't describe, and their upbringing wasn't trained to hold. You cried in front of people who didn't know what to do with emotion. They handed you distraction when what you needed was discernment. They offered tough love when what you carried required tenderness. But don't blame them. They were blind to what you carried. The grief that came out of you wasn't just personal. It was generational. It wasn't just about you. It was the collective cry of your bloodline finally releasing. You were the one chosen to feel what others buried. And when your family saw you cry, it scared them, because they saw their own denial in your honesty. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." But people can be uncomfortable around what God draws near to. That's why they didn't stay in the room. That's why some mocked you, dismissed you, or emotionally abandoned you in the middle of your breaking. Your crying made them confront things they'd rather ignore. They didn't reject you. They rejected what your vulnerability revealed in them. But heaven stayed. God leaned in. While your tears confused the household, they activated the throne room. Chosen one, you weren't just crying in front of family. You were interceding on behalf of them. Without knowing it, your tears began cleansing old wounds no one dared talk about. Your sorrow softened soil in your bloodline that had been hardened by decades of silence. You carried what others numbed. You broke down where others built walls. And that's why your cry held power, not just over your story, but over the cycles trying to continue through your last name. Your family didn't know it, but you were undoing curses with every tear they misunderstood. So don't resent them. Don't waste energy waiting for them to apologize for not holding you better. They weren't built for what you carry. You are the interruption. You are the tenderness born from generations of tension. And yes, they saw you cry, but soon they'll see you rise. They'll witness the strength God formed from the sorrow they couldn't interpret. And when the blessings begin to pour out, they won't just benefit you. They'll spill over into the same family that didn't know how to love you during the breaking. That's your power, chosen one. You cried, and now you will cover. Somewhere beyond this realm, beyond time, beyond logic, there is a vault. Not made of stone, but of light. And inside that vault are crystalline vessels, glowing, shimmering with data, each one sealed with a name. And chosen one, your name is there, written in a language only angels speak, engraved not in ink, but in essence. This is heaven's archive, and your story is one of its brightest displays. Every tear you cried was collected, catalogued, transformed into something eternal, not forgotten, not erased, preserved. You thought your pain faded, that it dissolved into silence, into empty space. But God doesn't work like that. He records what matters. He remembers what broke you. He treasures what the world ignored. And those tears you cried on the bathroom floor, that weeping no one heard but God, they were crystallized in the Spirit and stored in His archive. Not to shame you, but to honor you. Because what you survived isn't just survival, it's sacred memory. And sacred memory becomes spiritual evidence. That's why your name is encoded into light. Malachi 3:16 says, "A scroll of remembrance was written in His presence concerning those who feared the Lord and honored His name." Your tears wrote scrolls. Your sorrow formed records. You didn't even know it. But each time your spirit broke open in surrender, heaven wrote it down. Not in punishment, not in judgment, but in honor. Because heaven doesn't reward perfection, it rewards realness. And your brokenness was more honest than most people's praise. That's why your archive glows. It testifies. It has weight in heaven's courtrooms. It speaks when you can't. There are angels assigned to the archive, not just to guard it, but to revisit it. Because every time God is about to release something over your life, He consults that record, not to see what you earned, but to recall what you've endured. The oil on your name is not random. It's been accruing, building, layering in heaven's system. The longer you wept, the deeper your signature went. You left a trail in the Spirit, and now that trail is becoming a path others will walk. Your suffering wrote blueprints for breakthroughs, and heaven kept them all. Chosen one, when people dismissed your pain as drama or weakness, they didn't realize they were mocking what heaven reveres. They didn't see the glow, but now they will, because what was stored in secrecy is about to be revealed in victory. Your name has weight in realms where titles mean nothing and fame doesn't translate. Your cry made the archives, and now the archive is responding. You didn't just leave a mark on the world, you left one on heaven itself. And soon, the blessings released over your life will make one thing clear. They remembered everything. You always feel it first, don't you? The shift before it happens. The weight before the world notices. The ache in your chest that makes no sense until it does. That's not coincidence. That's calling. Chosen one, you cry before things change because you sense what others suppress. You carry sensitivity like armor, and when God is about to move in the earth, He lets the sensitive ones feel it in their bones. Your tears are time travelers. They show up early. They speak on behalf of seasons that haven't even arrived yet. You've wept for things you didn't understand, sobbed over dreams you couldn't explain, felt burdened by emotions that didn't seem to belong to you. That's because they weren't always yours. You've been entrusted with collective sorrow, family wounds, generational silence, cultural grief. You cry early, not because you're weak, but because you're chosen. The prophets always weep before the shift. The intercessors always cry before the healing. The reformers always groan before the war. And you've been doing it without knowing why, until now. Jeremiah 9:1 says, "Oh, that my head were a spring of water and my eyes a fountain of tears. I would weep day and night." That's the burden of the called, the weight of the sensitive. God lets you feel what others only see, and He trusts you to cry it through. Your tears are not emotional outbursts, they're spiritual forerunners. They prepare the ground for glory. They soften the soil before the seed comes. They make way for what's about to be born. That's why you've always cried in the waiting, in the silence, in the in-between. You are tilling spiritual land. The enemy tried to make you resent your sensitivity, tried to convince you that crying first was foolishness, but now you know it's your superpower. It's what separates the called from the common. While others need evidence, you feel it coming. While others wait for confirmation, your tears have already prophesied the storm and the blessing after it. And that's why you've been under pressure, because God doesn't give this kind of emotional access to just anyone. He gives it to the ones who will weep for what's coming before they celebrate what arrives. Chosen one, your tears have made you a portal, a precursor, a spiritual instrument that plays before the choir begins. That's why you've often been misunderstood, why people have said you feel too much, or make everything so deep. But soon they'll understand. When what you cried for begins to manifest, when the breakthrough shows up, right where your tears once fell, when revival comes to places your weeping softened, then they'll see you didn't just cry first, you cried ahead. And because of you, the path is clear, the veil is thinner, and heaven is near. What broke you is now healing others. What shattered inside you has formed into something the world needs. Chosen one, your tears didn't just dry up, they crystallized. And those crystals, they carry frequency, they carry memory, they carry medicine. You cried in isolation, but the impact was always meant to be collective. Heaven never intended your pain to stay private. That's why your healing feels bigger than you, because it is. Your restoration is for nations, for generations, for atmospheres that need the clarity only your sorrow could produce. There are people right now walking into freedom because of tears you cried in silence. They'll never know your name. They'll never see your face. But your breakthrough carved a path in the spirit that their feet will find. This is how God works. He turns personal agony into communal awakening. What you wept over became a sound wave, a vibration that carried truth through invisible realms. And now, when you speak, people feel things. When you show up, rooms shift. Because your crystals, your hardened tears of survival, are embedded in your aura. Isaiah 61:4 says, "They will rebuild the ancient ruins and restore the places long devastated." Sung, that's what your healing is doing. It's rebuilding ruins no one else wanted to touch. not just in your life, but in others. You've been handed emotional blueprints, how to walk through grief with glory, how to cry and still carry power. And now, your life is a silent mentor to people around you. They may not ask you for advice, but they're following your energy. Your crystals hum with healing. That's why some are drawn to you, and others are exposed by you. You don't even have to speak about your pain anymore. It speaks for you. Your glow is proof. Your discernment is residue. You didn't heal by pretending it didn't hurt. You healed by letting it flow. And that authenticity, it's contagious. Your presence gives people permission to feel again, to hope again, to cry again. But this time, in safety. Your very existence has become a balm. That's why you walk into situations and people start confessing things. It's not coincidence. It's the collective recognizing the healer in their midst. Chosen one, your story is not just a testimony. It's a template, a sacred sequence. And heaven has embedded it into the collective consciousness. You didn't just survive for yourself, you survived for us. You cried for the ones who couldn't. You bled so others could breathe. You broke so others could rebuild. And now your crystals, the sacred remnants of everything you lost, are forming a lattice in the spirit that others can climb. This is more than healing. This is legacy. This is global. This is God. And it all began with a tear.
There is one more tear. Maybe it hasn't fallen yet. Maybe it's been building, silently, patiently, at the base of your soul, waiting for the moment your spirit lets go completely. Chosen one, this final tear isn't just emotion. It's execution. It will not just release pain, it will end a pattern. This tear is holy, timed, assigned to the final chapter of a curse that's been cycling through your bloodline, trying to convince you that breakthrough was just a fantasy. But this tear, it carries fire. And when it falls, the curse won't survive it. This is the tear that carries the last of it, the last betrayal you haven't voiced, the last grief you thought you buried, the last unanswered prayer still echoing in the dark. You've cried 1,000 times, but this one is different. This one doesn't come from a wound. It comes from a witness. It knows what you've survived. It's not weak, it's awakened. The enemy knows it's coming. That's why the warfare has intensified. He senses the final drop. Because when it hits the spirit realm, it won't just cleanse you. It will cleanse everything that came before you. Revelation 21:4 says, He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain. That's a promise. But it's also a prophecy. God isn't just comforting you, He's closing something. This tear marks the end of spiritual inheritance that wasn't yours. Cycles of silence, cycles of self-abandonment, cycles of fear masked as strength. They end here, with a drop, with a break, with your spirit finally saying, no more. It won't be loud, it won't be performative, but it will be final. Chosen one, your whole life has been leading to this moment. That's why the pressure has been unbearable. That's why everything feels both heavy and fragile at the same time. You've been carrying the end of an era inside your chest. You are the last generation to carry what others passed down through shame and denial. But this tear, this holy, unspoken, divine release will not just free you. It will echo backward. It will reach those who came before you, and it will break what they couldn't. When that final tear comes, whether in a prayer, a dream, a memory, or in the middle of an ordinary day, let it fall. Don't hold it in. Don't reason it away. It is not weakness. It is warfare. It is divine punctuation. It is the cry of one who made it. And when it touches heaven's floor, the curse will have no choice but to shatter, because God has waited for this cry. And when it comes, chosen one, what was locked for generations will finally open forever.
Something's changed in you. You feel it. A shift, not in your personality, but in your perception. You still cry, but it's not the same. The tears fall differently now, not from confusion, but from clarity, not from collapse, but from command. Chosen one, your tears have been redefined. Heaven no longer sees them as distress signals. They are declarations, prophetic codes, liquid light. You don't cry from brokenness anymore. You cry from alignment. You cry because your spirit knows what your mind hasn't caught up to yet. You're becoming. You've been through the valley. You've seen what it feels like to sob without words. You've bled from the inside and smiled in public. But those days of crying just to survive, they're behind you. Your tears now are layered with glory. They carry wisdom. They're rooted in purpose. You can feel it. The way your weeping now activates peace instead of panic. The way your softness doesn't feel like a threat anymore, but a throne. That's what healing does. It redefines even your sorrow. Psalm 30 verse 5 says, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." And chosen one, morning is here. Not the kind that comes with sunlight, but the kind that comes with sight. You see now. You feel with direction. The empathy that once left you exhausted is now your tool. Your tears are no longer random reactions. They are precision strikes. When you cry now, the spirit realm listens because it remembers the archive. It remembers what you paid, and it honors what you release. You're glowing now, not from perfection, but from process. People will look at you and say, "You've changed," but they won't know the truth. They won't know that your glow was born in weeping, that your peace was pressed out of pain, that your clarity came from every tear you thought was lost in the dark. But heaven knows, heaven saw you, and now heaven is answering with restoration, with beauty, with overflow. Your tears were never just about grieving, they were about gathering, and now the gathering is complete. Chosen one, you'll still cry, but it will hit different. Now your tears will heal, your tears will teach, your tears will transmit hope to others too afraid to feel. You'll cry in worship, you'll cry in laughter, you'll cry in moments where heaven shows you just how far you've come, and every drop will remind you, you made it. You passed through the fire and came out as crystal. You didn't just survive, you transfigured. You are the proof, you are the altar, you are the answered prayer, and from now on, you'll never cry the same again.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.